works? Yeah, this works. Okay, perfect. Um, Welcome everybody. My name is Daniel, and I changed my title. So on the card it says, "How the hell do I run my microservices in production and will it scale?" But I did that presentation the last couple of months, but I created a new presentation for you guys today. So this is like the premiere of my new presentation, but it will contain a little bit of the same content, but I call it the real world of stacking containers with microservices in production. You can see the nice container there. If you're visiting Holland and you go to the Rotterdam harbor, there's this piece of art there. So if you drive into the harbor, you can see this container. And this is still a little bit of the state of mind I'm still in. At Cloud66, we're already running containers for almost 3 years, but still need to figure out how everything fits together. Um, so let's. Um, so I work for Cloud66, and I split my time. I'm a developer advocate, and what that means on the right side, on this side, you see me building this software as a service platform where you can deploy your containers, and that's where I'm working 50% of my time, just to building new stuff, um, creating darlings, killing darlings, changing the code, pivoting, changing directions, and together with my team, we're trying to build the best Docker in production platform. And on the left side, that's me thinking, and I do a lot of customer support. We're also talking to other developers and operations guys what we really want for their infrastructure. Like when you want to deploy microservices, what do you need for security or maybe all that stuff. So I really talk to all the people just to understand how this ecosystem is evolving. And still, it's the whole thing with Docker and containers. It's still young. It's in the beginning age. I mean, Docker is only 3 years old, which is not that old in the IT world if you look at in historic data. So what I'm going to do today, I'm going to take you on a journey, and it's called the hero's journey. And here's this guy called Joseph Campbell. He wrote this book in the 50s called The Hero with a Thousand Faces, and basically it outlines all hero stories. So if you watch Lord of the Rings, you can see that it starts with this hobbit, Frodo, which is a normal hobbit living in a normal village. And suddenly he takes on this journey, and then in the end he will throw. Well, if you don't, I hope you all see the movie. But in the end, he'll throw the ring into it. He's a big hero, and so this journey is quite interesting. So I'm going to use the 12 stages how a hero's journey is laid out. I use these 12 stages to explain how it is to run your microservices and containers in production, and what kind of things you will be encounter on that path. So what I'm showing here is that, like with Frodo, I mean, you can't take that ring and just run to Mount Doom and throw it in there. You need to, go on a journey, embrace your fears, and make some allies and meet some enemies, fight some enemies. And this is basically what's happening. So in this hero's journey, you start in the ordinary IT world. And in this ordinary IT world, that's where we're in right now. And you're going through a journey to the very special, what I call the container world, which is, and the first step is the ordinary world. So that's me as a developer, or maybe you're a developer, or operations guy, or a business guy. We're all in this ordinary IT world. We're doing DevOps, we're doing Scrum, putting posters on the wall to do all that stuff. And so we're pretty happy where we are, right? So we have this production system. Maybe we can already deploy the production in 5 minutes and all that stuff. You're like, oh yeah, this is great. But you feel, in your gut, you feel that something has to change. Maybe your competitor is going ahead of you, is going to have more, changing more. You have to be agile. And so So there's this call to adventure. Something shakes up. So maybe you go to this conference and like, okay, so we're doing it wrong in our company. Or maybe you, okay, so our competitor is moving much faster than we are. So you feel that there's some urge to go on this adventure. And maybe somebody calls you, maybe some of your coworkers call you, yeah, hey Daniel, how you doing? Yeah, I went to this conference and they're all talking about microservices and containers. I think this is the shit. We have to implement this because now we can, deploy to production in 5 seconds. This is great. So this is your call to adventure. Like, and maybe you're like, well, chill. We have this, IT system which is really great. So most of the time, and also with Frodo, he's in this nice village. He's like, oh no, I don't want to go, with those, dwarves. I just want to sit here and eat, And so there's a refusal of the call. And this is also we as human don't like. We don't like change. So this is the moment where you have to embrace the change. You're like, okay, so maybe this container is a good idea for our infrastructure, for our IT department. And most of in these stories, there's something called meeting the mentor. And in this case, that's me. I think, I hope. No, well, there's somebody comes to you and say, well, Daniel, listen, so you want to do these containers? Maybe you should go to DevOps Pro Moscow to learn about containers. And maybe you can, go on the journey to this very special container world to learn how to implement containers and run those things in production. So, but as a mentor, I mean, in this IT world, we try to come up with all these models, right? So I came up with this model, and it's based on this artichoke. So artichoke is if you never heard of artichoke, it's a vegetable, and the sweet spot is the heart of the vegetable. So that's the heart. So we have to follow the heart. And so the mentor is saying to you, so you have to follow the heart. What does that mean? So if you look at, I call it the artichoke model. This is, really impressive model I'm going to explain to you. So we have the developer, the artichoke developer. So if you look at the developer and you want to look at his heart, you have to peel those leaves. And those leaves are things like, well, so I can check my notes because this is a new presentation, so sometimes I check my computer just to see if it. So the layers of developers can be like the tools you're using, programming languages, design patterns, frameworks, maybe you use some GitHub resources. But the heart of the developer, the heart of the developer artichoke is basically building the right, elegant, performant code. You just want to write code which solves a problem. And so on the other side, which is reversed, we have the operations guys. So we're talking about DevOps, operation guys. So the operation guys, if you look at all the leaves, you see things like programmable infrastructure, performance tests, servers, data, networking, security, all that stuff which make the heart of the ops tick. But the heart of the operations guy is basically deploying the code in a controlled manner and also keep it performant and stable. But there's more to this table. Well, this should be later in the presentation, but I will explain it later. So another layer is the business. So the business, the layers are like cost saving, KPIs, adding value, metrics, return of investment, all that stuff. But the heart of the business is basically run and give the right service to the people with of course, a margin so you can make a profit. But there's another one, which is the people. And people, that can be your end customer, maybe your internal customer, maybe whatever. All the people who are using your service. So those layers are like, I want human-like software which is easy to use. It has to help me solving problems and work together. But at the heart of the people who interact with your IT system is basically consume the service the way they want it. And so what I draw in the middle is this little container. And to quote Marshall McLuhan, who says, the medium is the message. And I think the container is the message here from a technology perspective. So when you embrace this change in your company, when you want to, add value to your people, but also have developers release the code quickly to production, there's something really nice about containers, because containers and also microservices, which are like this nice marriage, containers microservice, that's a nice marriage, is an elegant message to bring out. So let's continue in our journey. So you can see there's a lot of ups and downs here. So this is here, you start here, you want something called containers, and in the end, of course, your end goal is running it in production. So let's see the next one. So we're going to cross the threshold. This is the moment when the hero, goes on the adventure. So he knows, okay, so I know the ins and outs of what I want, the heart of my team. So let's step out of the ordinary world and go into this container world. So the first thing I want to talk about is the containerization machine. It's just the name I made up. I think it's nice. So the containerization machine is this machine you have to understand. So on top you put in your code, and then this machine will generate your containers there. So you put different code and it will generate these nice containers which you can ship. So let's do a small introduction of containers. So basically we all I don't know what's with the beamer. Okay. Is it not? Let me see if it's. Why is it not? Okay. Okay. So small introduction. So this is interesting. Well, I'll just explain. So this I've drawn a container here, and basically we have some very clever kernel stuff. It's really complicated, and the nice thing with Docker and containers is that it abstracts away all that stuff. The thing you're having is basically an isolated process, your service, which runs inside your container. Yeah. And and basically how your container is defined is by creating an image, which is your Docker file. I'm just saying Docker because Docker is still the biggest one right now, how to define your images in containers. So I'm just going for the Docker. So I made some pseudocode. So basically what you're doing is so it's empty. So this container is empty, so it doesn't do anything. So you want to run something inside your container. So let's start. So you have to fill this container with some base information. So basically you need a file system, and maybe you need the first dependency where you can run your stuff in. And the next step is to update maybe some packages and set up maybe some runtime dependencies to compile your code. Then we copy the source code, of course, because we need to put the source code somewhere. And then we create our runtime, and of course we do some cleanup. And we have this nice container, which is like this nice format, and so we can ship it away. Great, so this is just the basic how you create your container. And then eventually you just have this command run code, which basically saying, well, if this guy goes into production, then your operations and your system knows how to run this process. So a little mental note here. I have this think global, act local. So I have a lot of customers who are using our platform. And what they do is they say, okay, I want this microservice container. I just write a Docker file and just deploy it straight to our system. And they say, it doesn't work. Yeah. Did you ever try to test it on your local machine? And what I'm trying to say here is that it's really important when you start using containers and microservices that you just take some time to create those Docker files on your local machine and test it before you just picking some platform where you want to deploy your containers, or just picking a container somewhere from a public repository. So this is always use your local system to understand what's going on. And it's so now we're in this this new world, and basically the hero is going to be tested, but also he finds some allies and some enemies. And of course, with his team, maybe he has some, or with himself, or with technology. This is the place where you, I mean, with Crossing the Trust, you try to understand the technology, but then the first fight starts. And one of the things is, this is a mental note, less is more. So basically, you have to focus on the minimal set of what you want to run your microservices. And so I have this quote. Well, this is not my quote, but normally it's easier to write a long letter than a short letter. And now I'm trying to say, I didn't have time to create a slim image, so I created a fat one instead. And I'm saying shortcuts are evil. So what I see in the wild is that people just treat like containers like big VMs. They just put everything inside it. So they have like, okay, so we have this nice lightweight system called containers, and now we're gonna do like put a whole Ubuntu distribution inside it and all the packages and all the things we need, and then let's make my point here. So we've got the containerization machine, and basically we put stuff in, we create stuff. You know, there's some containers coming in, but then in the end, if you put in shit, it's a machine. So if you put in shit, then also, you know, shit is coming out. I mean, it's a smiling shit. I mean, it's fine. But this thing, if you put everything inside this container and run it in production, this will happen. You can't polish a third. And this is, I mean, we can talk about schedulers and automatic infrastructure and all that stuff, but it comes down to create the right image. So before you start, you know, getting all these nice systems up and running, create your image right. Because this is gonna be your biggest enemy. That shit. Well, oh no. Or, you know, I mean, and you can't engineer your way out of it. This situation. So you have to be careful there. Just change this a bit. So let's continue. So in this hero journey, so when you have your tests, you have your allies, you find your enemies, you're ready to, you know, go into the final battle. So this is called the approach. This is the moment in the movie when they, you know, have this big fights with these orcs and stuff with the Lord of the Rings. But this is, you know, this is the approach. So this is where it's gonna be the ordeal. This is where the big event is happening. This is where you go into production. But this is the last steps into production. And so I use this KISS to get it right, and keep it simple, stupid. Already mentioned in the last presentation. So we already abstract away a lot of complexity. So if you look at how Docker, there's another talk I believe in the other room. You can't join right now, but maybe online. He's talking about how Docker and containers are implemented in the kernel. It's really complicated stuff. And Docker makes it really easy to use that information, but it's an extra abstract layer. And so don't make it too complex. So keep in mind that shit in, shit out. So to make your images easier, remember KISS to get it right. So I have 5 kisses: slim, secure, speedy, stable, and set. So what you want to do is, when you have this big VM-like container where you just, this is part of the learning curve. If I look at our customers, a lot of people are using this way. But you want to go to this situation where you just strip away all the stuff you don't need. So let's talk about slim. So slim is meaning that we remove the things you don't need. So basically, this is your base, maybe an Ubuntu distribution. Maybe you don't need like SSHD on your container. Why? You don't need it. Remove it. All those things are also adding an extra security attack surface. So make that smaller. So make sure that you have the smallest possible base image. Secure. I mean, make sure that you update to the latest security patches, but also remove the things you don't need, like maybe your private key. Maybe you put in a private key to pull some code. You don't want to have it stick around here, because how Docker is doing this is because of a layered file system. So all those layers are still there. If you have a layer like this and you remove something here, it's still there. You still can access those layers if a hacker breaks out of your system. Speedy, speedy. So it's also important to just, also with the shit in, shit out thing. It's what I see a lot of tutorials on the internet where you say, yeah, we have this nice container and now we run this command, and this command is not the command to run your API in production. So I see still in production environments where people just start a non-production application server in an application environment because they say, okay, this is a container, so it will solve all my problems. No, it doesn't. So it's really important when we're talking about the container is the message, is when you are talking about speedy and security, that your devs and operation guys work together to find the best possible solution to create that image. Stability. Stability is also that when I have this Docker file and I ship it to somebody else, it's the same. So if I build it from scratch, it has to be the same image. So make sure that you lock your version numbers and all that stuff. And set means that so in this cloud native world where we're talking about, the new thing, where everything can start up and shut down and all that stuff. But I'm not a fan of running, for instance, databases inside the container because it's really hard with the volumes and the distribution. So what I mean with set is just go. First steps into this microservices and scalable architecture is just go for the immutable infrastructure where this guy has less loosely coupled and don't mess around with all these weird volumes and all that stuff. So now the big battle begins. This is in what they call in the hero's journey the central space. This is where the big battle happens, where Frodo can be the big hero or whatever, or in Star Wars when they gonna shoot the Death Star. This is the moment, and what they say in this journey. This is the moment of death comes new life. This is the moment where you fear death, and I'm a little bit dramatic here. But this is the moment where you're, okay, so I have this container, okay, let's put this thing in production. And it's still a playground to learn. So now what? So I found this on Twitter. Somebody tweeted it. It says Docker, and then now what? So you put this thing in containers, you're like, okay, so what's happening? So I put a little slide here. So maybe you have the feeling, I don't know, but you have the feeling that everybody is already, adopting containers in production and doing microservices and cloud native and all that stuff. With Cloud 66 we have we manage 700 different Docker production stacks over 4,000 servers. So I checked the latest data, and what we're seeing is that 60% of our customers is just using the monolith. Just an Ubuntu-based image, put everything in it, and then run it in production. So you get like this Docker cluster with Docker engines and networking, and on each server there's just one container running. This is reality. I don't say that this is wrong, because there is a lot of use cases, because this is all part of the learning curve. We're only 3 years ahead, so when you have the feeling, oh, we're missing out, you don't. Everybody is struggling and learning. Then we have like 30% which have like more like an API first approach, where they split up the API and then the front end and maybe some workers. And 7% is basically breaking down the monolith, trying to, doing microservices and find out, okay, so can we split up in a new image and another container? And only 3% are truly trying to experiment with microservices. Because microservices is hard. You have a lot of moving components, there's a lot of things you need to deal with, and I will emphasize on that a little bit later. As a reward, this is the next step. So you have this thing running in production, and as a reward, because you're struggling from, okay, how can I run this thing? As a reward, you understand what is needed in production. So that's good to understand, because in this hero story, you're not done. There will be, in the end, you're feeling that you're here, okay, I understand this, I'm just doing this production, but there will be more to come. And this is what I call the container nursery platform, just the name I made up. I mean, it's called a Docker platform, a container platform, but basically, this is your microservice. And your microservice is just a little tiny micro thing, but it needs a lot of moving components to get this thing running in production. So you need security, not only security of your container, but also your infrastructure, your servers. I mean, did you guys heard of the dirty cow vulnerability a couple of weeks ago? So we have to patch like 5,000 servers for our customers. And that's things you need to be, aware of. It's security, but data management. So what do you do with your data? How is your data stored, restored, backup? Orchestration, how do you can scale more servers? The lifecycle, which is this software license, which is really important for your developers. So can I push in code to a Git repository, have it tested and deploy that microservice in production? And also, with lifecycle, I mean that you have like version A running, and then you're on version B, which is the next version, start it, and then switch the traffic. All the things you need to take care of. Discovery, how can microservices talk to each other? Monitoring, you have to monitor all the services. Are they healthy? What's happening? What kind of logging? Scaling, does it auto-scale? When do we scale? And also scheduling, where does this container goes to? Do we know that this container will run on this particular server? Is that secure? So this is the thing you need to do. Yes. And this will bring out the learnings, and you understand, let me see, okay, so this is a road back. So the road back is the moment that you realize, okay, so we need to think about this production environment. And let me give another advice. So in this Docker ecosystem, container ecosystem, there's a lot of moving components here. So right now, everybody's talking about Kubernetes, but not everybody needs like Google infrastructure for everybody else. And you have to understand that still there's a lot of moving components here, and you have to give yourself a little bit of headspace and look at your company, at your team, what you need from a production environment. So choose your battle there. So choose wisely. There's a lots of different platforms out there, but maybe in the beginning you only can use Docker Swarm, but on the end maybe you need Kubernetes or something else, or you need Classic 6 or whatever. But this is part of this learning curve. And in the climax, when you go back to your ordinary, so you learned everything in this container world, and you're like, okay, I'm ready here. So I go back to my ordinary IT world and showing this is the new way to do it. So basically you're back at base one. Yeah. And so you can shine off what you did in the first. Okay, this is sorry. I'm a little out of okay. So when you go back, you just you bring the new learnings and implement in your company. So I have 5 more minutes left. I just want to show you a project, just a use case where they use microservices. But I don't have the audio here, so I'm gonna try to. So this is the crime diggers case. Before I joined Classic 6, I did this project using microservices and Docker for a Dutch digital agency. And I just show you the trailer. The nice thing about the scrubbing use cases, because, and it's also an advice I can give you, is when you're starting with microservices and containers, it's really more easy to start with a greenfield project like this, where you just one project and just say, okay, I'm gonna start with this one. And the nice thing with Scramblings was that it generates like 100,000 people in 1 week, and we got like lots of hackers trying to brute force containers and APIs and all that stuff. So it was a real. This is like 2.5 years ago. It was when like Docker 1.0.6. For me, it was quite interesting to use Docker in that sense, but it proved to me that it was already for depending what you expect from a production environment, it was already production ready for me, and it's just getting better and better. So to conclude, so in the end you return with Alexa, and then you basically, you become a microservice container guru in the bold cloud native world again, and you explore the new world, which become the ordinary IT world again. And then when there's a new hype coming, you're probably spending again in this hero quest. So here's container journey. We talked about the Archok model. Less is more. Just get the right image and give yourself some headspace just to explore the possibilities in containers. Thank you for your
Thank you so much. This is the time for questions.
Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
And my question is, how long does it take this journey from the ordinary IT world to this extraordinary microservices world?
Well, it depends.
According to your experience. Of course.
Yeah, it depends on to start with containers and just learning, there's a little bit of learning curve there. So basically, you need to understand how Docker working. But if you want to implement like maybe a bespoke Docker platform, it takes you, depending on how many people you have. We already building this thing for 3 years.
Five.
Five.
For example.
Yeah. So nowadays there are more software coming up, which make it more easy to have a production environment ready for you. But I think if you want to really understand the power of containers and microservices, it takes you months, maybe a year or more. There's a lot of things you need to test, see, and how things are working.
Thank you.
Oh, there's another question in front. Yes.
Hi, thank you for the information. It was quite interesting. And are you on the journey of any kind right now? And if so, on which step? Are you on a journey like this?
Yeah.
And on which step?
On which step you are?
On which step are you?
Oh, which step are me? Oh, yeah. So we already made the loop, basically. So we already did the whole loop, and still we fighting our enemies, making new allies. So what you see is that it's not done. This whole ecosystem is still evolving. The whole thing with data management and containers is not solved right now, and the technology there is just new open source projects for maybe a year old, which is quite dangerous to use in production. So we decided just to have just the immutable containers running, and the database is just the native way, just to deploy it on virtual machines or physical hardware, because there's where they feel the best. And we're still looking at how things. We're now looking at new scheduler, how schedulers can help our customers. So we really listen to our customers what they need and also how they evolve in this container world. And also with the microservices movement, which is still gaining some, speed. We just talk to everybody. Say, oh, what do you need? Like this container nursery platform. What things you need to, make sure that your microservice is up and running. So basically, we are already starting a new journey again. So yeah, it's never done. Any other questions? Then I think it's ready for lunch. Thank you very much.